Welcome back, everybody, to the Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would like to introduce Dennis Timpanaro. Did I say that correct?
You got it, Dr. Lino. Thanks.
Awesome. He is the co-founder of Gotivation, motivation training speaker on health and fitness motivation. If you're ready for a healthy change for real this time, join him at Gotivation. He's a motivation training pro. Actually, he has a motivation training program that helps you get and stay motivated to reach your health goals. I love anything motivation, especially with the word Gotivation, and I'm ready to go there. So welcome to a Little Less Fear podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Lino. Love the energy in the start. I know we were talking a little bit earlier, but it is funny, right? That motivation, that energy is contagious. So let's see if we can get some people excited today.
It really is contagious, and it's like whenever I feel motivated and then somebody starts feeling motivated with me, it's like it keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. Yes. And it reaches this peak where we could just both hold it together and just flow together. And that's where all the goodness starts coming, all the positiveness, all the energy and creative flow and harmony. Well, that's the most beautiful thing about motivation. It creates harmony.
Absolutely. We probably won't get into all the nerdy stuff, but there's a subset of people too that are particularly motivated by groups, right? So there's a little bit of like social contagion there. And if there's energy in that group, there's motivation, there's accountability. They're very driven by that. So if sounds like that's you, and if anyone listening is in that same bucket, find that group, seek that out. It'll help.
That's so true. You know what? Because I've been in groups where if I'm the only motivated one feeling pumped and the whole energy is low around me, I start to feel low and I start to close off. I'm like, okay, well, what am I doing then?
It's the temperature of the room.
Exactly. So, hey, Dennis, tell us about your journey. What brought you to motivation? What brought you to Gotivation?
I will give you the abridged version because I'm sure nobody wants to hear about me for 55 minutes straight. It's not very exciting. But growing up, I had always been interested in the Olympics. I remember playing, old like computer games and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is fun. This big stadium, the Olympics are here. And candidly, I was an above average athlete, but not good by any means, right? Not like a standout, didn't play college sports or anything. So like I just worked hard. I was overachieving, but not naturally gifted. And I remember it was about maybe 8 years into my corporate career, right? I was doing the same old boring corporate stuff. And I just said, what am I doing for myself right now?
How old were you?
I know what I'm doing for my career. I know what I'm doing for my money, but what am I doing for me right now?
And how old were you when you started questioning that?
This was late 20s. So this was, late 20s. So
really
quarter life crisis. I don't know what you want to call it. Depends how many you have. So I remember this was right around the time the Olympics was being pitched, and Chicago was one of the finalists to host the 2016 games or 2012 games. I'm trying to remember which year it was, but I remember getting really excited. We were in the city working, and then Chicago lost. They got knocked out in the first round of the finalists. I said, well, that's it. You know what? This is my time. I'm going to try to do something. I'm going to go to the Olympics. And people are laughing and like, oh, what are you going to go to the Olympics in, right? You don't have any sport you're playing right now. And I said, well, I'll figure it out. And I did the least emotional, rational approach you could and look through all the different sports that existed, what I could be good at, what I could do individually, what I had the budget for, what I could do for a long time. And archery came to the top of that list.
Oh, I love
and everybody
archery.
Laughed. Have you played archery? Have you shot archery before?
Just for fun, but not,
yeah.
I mean, nothing professionally.
It's so first of all, it's a very fun sport. If you're listening, you haven't tried it, pick up a bow. There's lots of little clubs. They're always willing to bring you in. I never shot any firearms or archery. I had nothing like that growing up. I wasn't allowed to touch anything that could murder my brothers. Right. So I picked archery. I got lessons. I worked hard. I remember even like bringing my bow on the train to work at times and getting weird looks. And long story short, I actually got decent at it, Dr. Lino. Like I got good coaching. I practiced really hard and I became world ranked. I became US ranked.
Wow.
And yeah, it was wild. I'm certainly not great at it, but again, made it further than I thought I could. And I went to the Olympic trials the first time. I was super excited. I was shooting really well in practice. I figured, hey, this is my shot. I can maybe make the first cut and keep going. And I sucked. I was nervous. I was tense. I didn't shoot freely. I did all the things you do when it's your first time competing in very, very high pressure at that level. I remember coming home and being really depressed and sad. Essentially going from practicing 20 hours a week to I didn't want to like even get out of bed. And then the weirdest thing happened. An Under Armour commercial. I'm not sponsored, okay? So don't get funny ideas. But an Under Armour commercial pops on. It's Michael Phelps. And if you remember at the time, Michael Phelps was one of the greatest swimmers of all time.
Oh yeah.
And just gotten into a little bit of trouble. He was enjoying some weed and having a good time.
I remember. Yeah.
Just living life, right?
Right.
And everyone's like, oh boy, what a terrible role model this guy is. And it's funny to even look back on it at this point. So the commercial was all about him coming back, working hard, waking up early, trying to silence the pundits and the critics. And it was just this bolt through me. And I got up the next day at 5 a.m. Again, remember, I'd been cut at this point. There was nothing to work for. It's the middle of winter at this point. I haven't been practicing. I got up at 5 a.m. to go practice in my cold garage for an hour before work because I was so excited. And I said, what about this set of circumstances in me in this commercial and who I am got me motivated and out of this funk? I want to know what it is and I want to study it and understand it. And that is what birthed the idea of Gotivation, figuring out what motivates us to stay healthy, how people can apply it, how am I different and unique than everybody else? And, I would say the rest is history, but we still got a long way to go. So
yes,
the rest is recent history.
So then what did you figure out about what got you motivated? What about that commercial? What about Michael Phelps? What about he's starting to work on his life? What did you figure it out?
We'll never figure all of it out, right? I'm not that smart. We have a
Sure you are.
CPO, our product officer is a multiple degree, his name's Danny, right? Multiple degree psychology and in physical training and nutrition. We still only know so much of it, right? But what we did learn and what we've read about and understood is that there's two really surprising things about motivation. The first is motivation is unique. It's different for you. It's different for me. We might have similar traits, but it's unique, right? It's based on our upbringing, our values, our experiences, even like our genes and socioeconomic status, right? All these things come together to influence how we are motivated.
Right.
So that it kind of makes sense, right? When you think about why did that work for me and why didn't that work for somebody else?
Yes.
The second piece, and this is probably the most important piece, is that motivation is not will, it's a skill. So motivation is a skill, right? And if something's a skill, what does that mean?
Right. What does that mean?
Yeah, if like any other skill, that's the crazy part about it. You can learn it, you can practice it, and you can strengthen it.
Ooh,
and when I figured those things out, right? This wasn't me. I'm not a research psychologist, but when I finally learned those two things, it changed my entire perspective.
Mm-hmm. And so, and going back to that motivation that you felt after seeing Michael Phelps back in the ring, if you could say it like that, back in the ring of fire.
Yeah.
What I'm based on what you're telling me, what motivation is. So then you decided that you had this skill at that moment and that you wanted to learn that skill and therefore you started practicing it and strengthening it.
Yeah.
But what got you to feel emotionally and mentally ready to get up at 5 a.m.? I'm not really seeing the tie here.
Yeah. So what I didn't realize at the time, right? That was the spark for me to try to study this and understand it and reach out to people that knew it better than me. That was the spark. Yeah. It took me probably another 2 years that we could talk about today too, until I realized that there's different traits in all of us. Mm-hmm. And my traits matched up most like Michael Phelps did in that case. So I'm
excellent.
It's kind of crazy to look back and tie it all together. I guess no one's really asked it in that way, but we have something called motivational personalities. We've created these to help people understand, what drives them, what doesn't, what things excite you, maybe where you get stuck, how you overcome obstacles, what happens when you're dealing with, hardship or in good times. And my motivational personality is called a partial perfectionist. Okay. That means work hard, play hard, right? So I may go really hard Monday to Friday in the gym or train for archery and then have a bunch of drinks all weekend and not think about it. Or I could be on for 3 months of training and then super low key for the summer. But I know I'll get back to it and I'm driven by getting back to it, right? It's that balance of I'm on and then I'm off so I can live. And that commercial was a comeback. The whole thing was a comeback. He was off for a while, enjoying life. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to take all my energy. I'm going to come back and I'm going to work towards it. And I'm going to be driven and motivated by it. So I'm actually kind of fascinated you brought that up. I hadn't really connected all the dots, until just recently on that, the last couple of years.
Excellent. Yeah. You know what? While you're telling me this, I'm starting to feel into this incredible story that you had when you finally had the spark, and I'm feeling that you subconsciously were aware somehow in the back of your head that you had similar personality traits to Michael Phelps, and you felt this connection, and it
Maybe
kind of brought you back to life and said, "Hey, man, he's doing it. I've got that in me too."
the subconscious is always a step ahead, right? So it might have
Exactly.
been, it might have known already.
Yeah. So you definitely related with him and he pumped you up, which is
Yeah,
what we're all here to do collectively
big
as a
time.
human race, motivate each other.
Motivate each other, be kind to each other. Yeah, help each other out.
So what happened after that? What happened after you finally got motivated to get up at 5 in the morning and start going back to archery again? What happened after that?
Yeah. So as the story goes, again, I continued to shoot archery. I haven't shot competitively in about the last year. I've put it down a little bit to deal with. I've got 2 kids. I've got 2 jobs. It's been a lot, right?
Yeah,
And the
that is a lot.
travel and the competition and the other aspects of it were just, it was like 4th place in my life, and I wasn't giving it the attention I needed. But for the following 10 years, kind of after that moment, I continued to, well, a little less than 10 years. I continued to practice, continued to improve my scores, continued to, it's not this glory story of all gold medals raining down on me, right?
Sure.
I had my wins, I had my losses, I had my lessons, I had amazing experiences from the top coach in the world giving me some lessons to, having my lowest score in 8 years, right? It fluctuates back and forth, and that's life and that's competition. But the motivation stayed with me, and that's what helped me create, Gotivation here. It turned into actually a business to help other people.
And how did that happen?
So the short version is, in college, I'd always been interested in entrepreneurship. I'd always wanted to start my own business. I never had the guts, right? And I remember taking an entrepreneurship class my senior year, had a fantastic professor who was a small business owner too. He's like, all right, you're going to start this business idea you had, right? I look around, I'm like, no way, why would I do that? I don't get any money. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared, right? We talk about a little less fear. I was
Yeah.
loaded with fear and excuses. So I have no regrets that I didn't do it at the time, but I wasn't ready. So that, much like, drive and passion that most people have, it doesn't leave you. It stays inside.
Yeah.
You just actively repress it until the moment is right. And the moment was right when I had an opportunity to leave a very nice job. I worked at McDonald's for a number of years, corporate stuff, had a great team, good friends, and there was an opportunity to leave. And I said, this could be like, I don't know if I should leave, but if I do, I could take this and I could start my business.
Yeah. Leap
And
of
I
faith.
made the leap. I actually conquered my fear for a minute there and made the leap to start Gotivation. So I left a high paying, 6-figure job with a family at the time, with, a completely different career, completely different industry with no connections, and jumped out to start this business. And
And
that is how
so,
Gotivation started.
oh man, that's an incredible leap of faith to be leaving a good job like that and having a family and everything. What was your vision at the time for Gotivation, and who came up with that title or the actual name Gotivation?
Yeah, so that was me, right? I'm not a marketing person. That's why I have Kim as our chief marketing officer. But I just changed the M into a G because I wanted to get people going. I wanted to
Yeah.
encourage people to get going, whether it was health, whether it was nutrition, whether it's just having a positive mindset.
Yes.
So that's where the business started. Frankly, it kind of does what most startups do. I floundered around and wasted a bunch of money and time learning and trying to figure things out. And invariably, the first iteration of that vision failed. I ran out of money, I ran out of time, and I ended up having to go back to work. And it was tough. It was tough on my family. It was tough on my friends. It was tough on me, right, in my psyche. So I needed some help, right? And I brought on Kim, a co-founder, Danny, our partner on the product side. And eventually, if you surround yourself with smart, hardworking people, you figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the fact that you were open to receiving help, and that's actually motivating in itself too, rather than closing up and saying, I'm done, I didn't do well this first time, oh, I failed, it's never going to be done. You kind of
Yeah.
took a break again, and then you felt the motivation to push again, to go
Back
push
up.
forward, and then you opened up your heart and your mind and your soul, and other people came in to help you and level you up.
You know what's I guess it's interesting, or maybe it's me. I don't know. We'll see if anybody relates. But growing up, I had good grades. I didn't have to study a lot. Like kind of one of those stories was like I just got it. I don't know why. Maybe it was genetic. I had kind parents that were supportive and stuff. So I never really needed a lot of help. And you're kind of taught in that scenario as you're growing up. It's like, well, you're independent. You could do it yourself. You don't need help. Don't reach out to people. That's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
And it took me a very long time, later into my career and in college, and things are like, whoa, wait a minute, maybe I'm not that good, right? I do need people to help me out here. Your natural talent runs out. It has a limit at a certain point. And I think in the entrepreneurial world, especially, but in archery, in health, in wellness, in mental health, getting help is key. You will not get very far trying to do it on your own. And the sooner I was able to accept that and get help, connect with people and learn, the farther I've gone.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about that, when you open up like that, you're also helping them. It's like everyone starts helping each other. Everyone's holding hands together, and the connection just keeps growing and growing and growing. And that's the beautiful thing about allowing help in.
I look at what you do with this podcast and your writings and the story that you share, right? And maybe you don't see it this way, but you're helping a lot of people. And
Thank
the
you.
feeling of helping others is one of the most satisfying things you can do in your life,
It really is.
more than anything else.
It really is, because it's selfless and it comes from a place of purity. It comes from honesty, integrity, and love. And nothing is more expansive than that.
That's it. That's it. I remember, again, I've been very fortunate in my corporate career. I know a lot of people are struggling, so I'll never look down on it. I'll never say it was a bad choice. I'm happy. I'm grateful for it. But I remember the first time I got a true compliment at Gotivation. So we were working with this woman. She'd just given birth. I don't know if it was postpartum or not, but she'd just given birth. She was really down. She wanted to feel like herself again. She'd been stuck for a long time, and she used to be an athlete, great shape, and she just wasn't feeling like herself. And we finished the first course with her. It was a 30-day program. And I remember her sending me a note just saying, this like made me happier than anything I've done the last 30 days. This helped change my life, get me back on track. And, maybe she was just a little overly exuberant at that point, because that seems strong to me. But I've never felt more satisfaction in anything I've done until I had received that compliment. Nothing at my other jobs ever lived up to that one little nice remark. So helping other people, even if you don't get that feedback, it goes such a long way for your own well-being.
It really does. And right now, as you said that you're not really too sure because of how strong maybe the emotion was, but I
Yeah,
feel that it was sincere, and that's why it motivated you so much, and that's why you felt so good, and that's why you still remember it to this day.
I
And
think
it's
so.
it's things like that that just keep pumping you up to keep going, and keep going.
Big time.
So tell us about the Gotivation program. How does it work? Let's
Yeah.
say let's say I go to you and I'm like, hey, I'm a former disabled person, and I've got some disabilities. I'm not sure I can
Sure.
ever, have the body of my dreams. I'm feeling a lack of motivation. I work out really hard and I'm seeing little results, but I'm coming to you because I need this motivation to pump me up and know that I can have that dream body.
Yeah. Um, we are all about the mental side. So when you think about health and wellness, and this is grossly generalized, but when you think about health and wellness,
Hmm.
usually it's about 80% diet, nutrition, right? What are you putting in your body? How are you taking
Right.
care of your body? About 20% exercise or fitness. What are you doing with your body? But what people overlook is that it's also 100% mental. So 80% nutrition, 20% fitness, 100% mental. And we focus exclusively on the mental side to help people get the mindset and the skills they need to stick with whatever they pick. Right? If you're into yoga,
Right.
fantastic. If you're into sailing, go for it. If you're a nerd like me and you like archery, fine by me. You want to dance, all of those are fantastic exercises.
Right.
If you like shake programs, great. If you like paleo, fantastic. It doesn't matter, right? There's plenty of science and information around all those programs to be effective. But if you can't stick with them, if you get stuck, that's usually up here.
Yeah.
It's usually up here, right? Even
Right.
with physical limitations, like you talked about, there's adaptive exercises that'll work.
Yes.
So what we focus on, again, is entirely the mental piece of it. So we help people understand the starting point is always our motivational personality quiz.
Oh, wow.
And that's what we talked about earlier about that uniqueness piece. So everybody's unique. And
Yes.
until you can figure out how you are uniquely motivated, you really can't unlock the right way to stay motivated with whatever activity you're interested in, right?
True.
So start with the quiz.
What's on that quiz?
Yeah, the quiz is about 30 questions. It takes, I don't know, depends how much you overthink it. If you're an overthinker like me, it'll take you 10 minutes. If you just go through it and try not to, critique your entire life, probably about 3 minutes. But they are psychology-based questions that help us figure out your traits. And the outcome of that quiz is your motivational personality.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah, there's 4 types. I know I shared one of them earlier. That's me, right? So I'm a partial perfectionist. That's one type of motivational personality. Partial perfectionist, just think about work hard, play hard. You might be on for a while and then go take a break. You might eat really clean all day and then finish the night with a sleeve of Girl Scout cookies. And that's totally cool because that's how you operate and you'll get back to it. But if someone tries to say, no, Dr. Lino, you can't have dessert, you're gonna be like, whoa, like that's who I am. Like that's part of who I am. That's how I balance all this hard work. And not very motivational situation. So that's partial perfectionist. Next up is disciplined doer. They are very motivated
disciplined
by disciplined doer.
Oh, disciplined doer. Okay.
Yeah. These, I mean, you could tell I made up all these terrible names. Just not a marketing guy.
I love it.
So disciplined doer is driven by schedules, by detail, right? By planning, by processes and progress. They want to follow a plan. And they want to detail that plan, and they want to have a schedule of what they're eating in the morning and when they're going to their yoga class and how they're recovering. They love and are driven by that. They like that structure. Very conscientious people.
Okay.
Where are we at? Number 3?
Doer.
Yeah. Number 3 is the self-controlled spectator. Not just a clever name. So a self-controlled spectator has a inordinate amount of motivation based on their control. They like to make decisions. That drives them, right? I want to be in control. I want to think through the outcomes. I want to think through the long term and the short term, and then come back together and make a decision. Sometimes it's yes, that's going to be a healthy decision for me. Sometimes it's no, I don't want to do that. But that self-control is what drives them. They want to be in the driver's seat. And last, certainly not least, is the laid-back learner.
Okay.
The laid-back learner. Laid-back learner is kind of, I don't want to say the opposite of disciplined doer, but if disciplined doer is schedules and blood, sweat, and tears and give me all the details, they're like, I want to enjoy this. I want some variety. I want it to be fun. I want to remember it when I'm done, not pass out on the floor. I want to try different foods and experiment. I want to learn and take in a whole bunch of information and consume it. It's not worth doing if it's not enjoyable in their perspectives. So those are the 4.
So basically it's not worth it unless it's enjoyable for the laid back learner.
Yeah, it's got to be, they thrive on kind of variety and enjoyment. Not necessarily always the social aspect, but that does come into play quite a bit with laid back learners, right? Doing group activities, being with other people and having fun. Yeah.
Can we ask you a question about the self-control spectator?
Yeah.
So if they're motivated based on control and they want to think about it and make their decision, how and when do they actually get that spark? Because it feels very indecisive when you're reading this.
There is look, there is no one right person. There's no one unique personality. In fact, if anybody tells you like you are just this personality in life, whether it's Myers-Briggs or DISC or something else, they're wrong, because we all have blends. You're going to see yourself mostly in one, but there'll be aspects of you in all of them.
That makes sense.
We're human beings.
Yeah.
So that means that with every good thing, there's also, a counter to that, something you got to watch out for. So with self-controlled spectators, you already zoomed in on it. Sometimes they get stuck in decision paralysis. They would rather wait on the sidelines sometimes until that perfect choice comes up. And they're not doing anything for a while. Right. Well, that doesn't exactly fit my schedule, so I'm not going to go for it. Or, I remember reading about this and it doesn't align with what my palate prefers. So I'm going to skip that one. And what can happen is, again, the downside to self-control is you end up waiting too long to take action, because any action is better than no action for your body. But they got to be careful of that. So watch out.
Yeah. So how do you motivate somebody like that?
Sometimes they need a little push. It's an interesting balance. So we talk about it in the report. So all the information is in the Motivational Personality report. There's a free version that's, a couple pages. That's nice. It gives you an overview. And then there's an in-depth, like nerd out, give me 30 pages about me, how I work with other people, how I get stuck, how I get unstuck, what might drive me, what activities could be fun, what activities might turn me off a little bit. But we talk about it in there that sometimes you need a little push, and maybe that's coaching, right? Maybe that's a friend or a peer that's doing it first with you, right? Hey, come and join me. I know you're not totally decided yet, but have a little tease. Come try for 20 minutes for fun for free. They need just a little bit of push. And then they jump in the game and they're committed.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I don't have that skill, by the way. I'm not a high self-control person, being a partial perfectionist.
So as I'm reading this, I can see that I'm a cross between laid back learner and I can't say I'm a work hard, play hard. I feel like I'm always working hard.
It sounds like you got a lot of discipline doer based on your aspirations, what you've done with the podcast, your life. You're very driven.
I am. Yeah. And I am pretty much on a schedule. Like, I mean, I work out 5 to 6 days a week, and it needs to be at least 1 hour. Yeah, I am. I'm very.
That's discipline, buddy. That's discipline doer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
how do you feel about that? I mean, I'm curious.
Yeah.
I know you haven't read the report yet, but maybe after the podcast, you could take it and tell me what you think. What, at a high level, how does that make you feel?
How does which one make me feel? The fact that we've realized right now that I'm a disciplined doer?
Probably, yeah. That's where I put my money, but I'm not, we'll let the question answer. What do you think?
Because I mean, I know this about me since I was a kid. I was in martial arts for about 10 years when I was a little kid. I got gold medals at the Junior Olympics. Yeah, I was
awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I was very motivated and disciplined, and it's been following me, I mean, all the way since I was a kid. So I know that's part of my personality trait. Yeah, I definitely welcome that title for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, thank you. So once you actually get these quizzes in, then and these answers of your new potential client, you then know who you're dealing with or who you might be dealing with, and you know how to go in after that.
That's the key, right? It's partially for us to help, right? But it's also for the self-awareness for that customer to say, hey, look, I get it now. Like, this is why I act this way, or this is why I get stuck here. And where most people want to talk and where we want to go next is, where are you getting stuck? Because knowing yourself is great, right? Having that knowledge is really important. But then it's, how do you start to change and it's behavior change, right? How do you start to change to take action? And most people are getting stuck in one of multiple ways, or sometimes a combination of things. So the next piece is always taking that personality and then trying to dig deeper and figure out, what are the sticking points?
Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to figure out the sticking points, is this based on results, or is it based on them communicating to you, or observation?
Yeah. So the way we've done it in the past is through a course. What we're about to launch in the next couple of months is actually it's still a course, but it also has one-on-one coaching too. Group coaching is going to help them say, all right, you're trying to diagnose. This is tough, right? I'm not a psychologist, and we're not doctors, but we're helping them to come to the answer. So there's a couple of places where people usually get stuck. Confidence is a big one. Importance is a big one, right? So the prioritization, right? Is it a high priority in your life, or is it something that sounds good, but it's lower? Confidence is, do I think I can do this? Or am I scared? Like, is this something I don't think I can pull off? Those are two big ones. You have all the other socioeconomic and internal factors. Do you have a bad job, right? Is a bad job burning you out? Is there stress in your family or relationships, right? There's a whole host of other things, everything from maybe it's locus of control. Sometimes people feel powerless. They think the world's happening to them and there's nothing you could do, so they don't take action. They get stuck there. Sometimes it's competence, right? It's like, I literally don't know how to cook a healthy meal. I don't know how to do, push-ups. And if you don't have that sense of knowledge, It's rare that you're going to go out and try that on your own. So that's where we go. We try to get into that level and say, all right, these couple things really look like where you're getting hung up on the line. How do we help you strengthen those mindset skills?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And how do you work with them? Do you work with them both in person and remotely?
It's all remote right now,
Excellent.
because we try to scale and help as many people as possible. So the new program that we're going to be launching, that's going to be like a Zoom based course and 30 days of practice and training and education. The one after that is called Motivated in a Month. That was actually our original course.
Wow, I love
And
that.
that is a self-paced course to help you practice those skills. So once you figure out where you're stuck, then you need to actually build up the skill sets to overcome them or do your best, right?
Right. And so
Yeah.
you have a whole team.
We have a small team. We have a small team. Yeah. I
And is
think a whole
that
team sounds generous, but we're a small business.
and so the small team, how do you all kind of like separate or individuate and come together with each client?
Yeah. So clients sign up for the motivational personality you could take right now, right? That's self-service. It's
How do we take that? How do we take this quiz?
sure. Yeah. Head to gotivation.com.
Uh-huh.
And then at the top right, or one of the many orange buttons, click, take a quiz or start quiz.
Okay.
And again, the quiz, if you want the free version, it's free. We're happy to help. And we hope it excites you and gives you some insights.
Yeah.
If you want to get nerdy and really figure out like what's going on, there's a premium version too. The enrollment for the new course will be up fairly soon. It might actually be launched by the time, this podcast airs. We'll let you know maybe in the show notes or something, but same thing, you'll sign up there. You'll get assigned a starting time for your cohort. So a group of people you'll be working with, kind of classmates. And then you'll have the lessons online and then virtual training, on Zoom or something like that each week.
That sounds excellent.
Thanks. We hope so, right? I mean, we're testing it out, making sure it's good for everybody right now, but
And
the
how long
goal
has it
is,
been going strong now?
I mean, Strong's,
Hey,
I,
I feel the energy and I feel the motivation and I feel that it's strong.
I love it, man. And, strong depends on who you ask and depends on my own limiting beliefs at times, right?
Sure.
I'm human like everybody else. There's times where I wish we would have helped 1 million people by now.
Oh yeah.
There's times where I go, well, it's, I have 2 jobs and a family and other things going on. And so do all my co-founders and my peers, right? We all have families and jobs. So like, we're trying to make as much progress as we can, but balance our lives.
How long have you been motivated with Gotivation?
Gotivation is 6 years old, believe it or not.
That's
It's 6
incredible.
years old. So yeah, I've been doing that for a while. Kim and Danny have been on the team for a while at this point, and it's just, we're not stopping. We got a lot of people to help, and we're driven. So
I love it. I love the
yeah.
energy.
Thanks, man.
So what's your biggest joy and your biggest takeaway with Gotivation right now?
It is the I think I shared it earlier, right? It's the feedback, which is funny, right? So if anyone out there is a small business owner as well, you know that the best part, the hardest part, and the most necessary part of your business is getting customer feedback. So I say it's all those things because there was a book I read once that described it as, imagine you're going to the prom and you have to ask your date, right? Will you come to the prom with me? And they go, no. And here are all the reasons why. And you have to be open to take that feedback and not cry and not shut down and not get angry, because if you don't listen, you can't make the changes necessary to help other people out and build a better product. So to me, that's the good and the bad, right? You have to hear that feedback to make your product better, your business better, to grow as a person. But also every once in a while, you get those little nuggets of, you helped me, you motivated me, you helped me get out of a dark spot, you helped me get energy to like take care of my body and live longer or eat right. And that's the fuel that keeps me going. That's
I gotta
it.
tell you, Dennis, that you've motivated me. And even though I'm already self-motivated, these
You
are the
seem pretty
seeds.
motivated, man. You've got it
But
down.
these seeds help. You know, these
Yeah.
people that you meet, these connections, they keep pumping me up, they pump you up, they pump listeners up. And this
Yeah.
is what it's all about. I'm very grateful to have connected with you and to have had you on a Little Less Fear podcast. How can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find you and Gotivation?
Yeah. You can find Gotivation at gotivation.com. I'm also on mostly Instagram, Dennis _ Timpanaro. You can find us out there. So Dr. Lino, thank you for the opportunity to share not just the story, right, but help maybe provide a few nuggets and some motivation for everybody. I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
I love what you're doing. Thank you so much. And you keep it up. We're going to keep it
We're
up.
gonna keep
Raising
it
that
up. We're gonna
vibration and
be
keep going
together.
with Gotivation. I'm feeling excellent. You have an excellent weekend. Thank you so much for being on A Little Less for Your podcast.
Thanks, Dr. Lino.